We're good, Terry?
We are good.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Marin Water Board meeting of July 11th, 2023. If we could have a roll call, please.
Yes, good evening. Director Larry Russell,
Here.
Director Matt Sampson,
Here.
Director Jed Smith,
Here.
President Monty Schmidt,
Here.
and Vice President Ranjeev Kush.
Here. Moving along, if I could have a motion to adopt our agenda for today.
So moved.
Thank you. And before our vote, Terry, are there any public comments on adoption of the agenda specifically?
For the closed session, there are none on the agenda. Yes.
No comments on adoption of the
Oh,
agenda?
that is correct. Yes, none.
Thank you. If we could have a vote then.
Yes.
Yeah, second. I'll second it.
Yeah, it was seconded, Larry.
Okay, sorry.
Director Russell,
Aye.
Director Sampson,
Aye.
Director Smith,
Aye.
Vice President Schmidt,
Aye.
and I'm sorry, President Schmidt, and then Vice President Ranjeev Kush.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, next item then is we'll move to any public comments on closed session items only.
That is correct, and there are none.
Okay, then with that, we will convene to closed session.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Just to note that the closed session was adjourned at 6:30 p.m. with no reportable actions. So the next item in our meeting is to move to public comment on closed session items. Now, before we do that, I just want to say thank you.
Sorry, Vice President, I'm sorry. I think you mean public comment on non-agenda items.
Sorry, on
We did.
non-agenda items.
Thank you, sorry.
So before we do that, I just want to say thank you to all of you for being here today. We're obviously working on critical issues that are important for all of us and for the community that we serve. Some of these issues are challenging, and it's only by working together that we're going to be able to resolve them in fashions that are satisfactory for all of us, that meet the goals of Marin Water, and that best serve our community. So again, your participation and your engagement in this process is so important, and I'm so glad that you're here. I will request that for this session, we limit comments to 2 minutes. There's so many of us here today, and I would like to make sure that everybody has a chance to be heard before it gets too late, particularly the little ones who maybe can't stay as long as some of us may have to. So Terry, with that, I think we can move to the public comments.
Yes, sir. So the first three people I have to speak are Matt Circle, Jonathan Vermillion, and Justin Turnham. Thank you. If you go ahead and turn on the mic, please.
So, sorry, Matt, before you go, I'm going to make one more comment because this is such an important, I think, discussion. You know, based on how these meetings are run, we're not able to respond directly to your comments on site. But please know that you're being heard. Please know that we're taking notes. Please know that all of what you say is being considered.
And I'll start it now.
Thank you, Board. Matt Circle, longtime district employee, been full-time for 28 years, and I know many of you. Wanted to take time to make comment on the current negotiations. Being a long-term employee, this is one of the first times in my memory I can recall the union's proposals being met primarily with calls for concessions and rollbacks on union rights and other benefits and issues. Two issues I do want to briefly touch on is the COVID pay, which I'll discuss now, is the employees who did not have an option to work from home, which were a good portion of the district staff, including the park rangers. It was a stressful time for us. For the Rangers, I know within the first month of the COVID restrictions, I performed CPR on a watershed visitor who unfortunately died at the hospital. And the Rangers throughout that year responded to a record number of medical aids, about 115 medical aids, when our normal before that was 50 to 70. Record number of search and rescues, and many other issues. Our watershed maintenance workers were exposed to the public. We had record levels of visitation, and then all the other employees who allowed the district to continue to have water provided to the customers. And I think all the employees who worked from in the field deserve some recognition for their hard work. And our reasonable request was met with, let's just say it wasn't a reasonable response. The other issue I want to hit on is without adequate pay and benefits, we're going to have trouble recruiting and retaining employees. I can tell you one portion of the water district that's already been affected by that is the auto shop. They used to have 4 mechanics. They have 3 positions, but for the last few years, it's pretty much been 2 mechanics doing the job of 4 people.
Thank you.
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you, Matt.
Jonathan, please. Jonathan? Okay, I'll move on to. Are you Jonathan?
Yes.
Go ahead and please. Thank you.
Hello, esteemed members of the Board of Directors. Thank you for your time. I stand before you today as a proud employee and member of the Marin community that we serve. As negotiations for our contract have reached a recent headwind, I feel compelled to address some crucial points that are close to my heart and reflect the sentiments of my fellow workers. One critical component of a united workplace is a meaningful cost of living adjustment. As the cost of living in our area continues to rise, it is imperative that our wages keep pace. A fair and reasonable COLA not only ensures that our employees can support themselves and their families, but it also acknowledges the value of their contributions. By providing a meaningful COLA, we demonstrate our appreciation for the hard work and dedication that our employees bring to their roles each day. Furthermore, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the extraordinary circumstances we faced during the COVID-19 pandemic. In those early days, when the severity of the situation was still unclear, we, the employees of the Marin Municipal Water District, stepped up without hesitation. We serve working diligently, not only because it was our job, but because it was our duty. It was our duty to serve our community, and we stood united, fully committed to ensuring the continuity of essential services during an unprecedented crisis. In light of our commitment and the sacrifices we make, it is essential to foster a united workplace. Our success as an organization rests on the foundation of a cohesive and supportive environment. We must recognize the middle class that have long been the backbone of America. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Justin, please, and Justin, please, and then Beta Edwards, Aaron Burton, and Colin Leahy. Go ahead, Justin.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Justin Turnham. I'm a employee here at the district. I've been working here over 17 and a half years, and I'm speaking on the COVID payment for hazard pay and that we're requesting in our contract negotiations. You may remember COVID as a bad flu, but please try and remember the early days of the pandemic. Most people were logged in from their couch and between bleaching their groceries and watching the news on Italy rationing ICU resources while obeying official orders to shelter in place, holding their spouses and babies close. Terrified by the death toll stats increasing real time across their screens and complaining about the toilet paper shortage. We did not shelter in place. We had to carry official letters allowing us to drive during curfew. We showed up to work every day, knowing we were going to work in close proximity at increased risk of exposure. We showed up with homemade masks, thinking about the exposure we were bringing home every night to our pregnant wives and our babies, unsure what we were going to expose them to. We showed up because as essential workers, we know we play a crucial role in maintaining the community's safe water supply. We showed up every day without asking what was in it for us, trusting we worked for an organization in a community that would honor our personal sacrifices. Again, it's easy to dismiss the pandemic with all the knowledge we have now, but when evaluating what is fair and equitable, I'm asking you to remember that we showed up when the community was in crisis. Thank you.
Beta Edwards, then Aaron Burton.
Good evening. My name is Beta Edwards. I worked at Marin Water for over 5 years in the engineering department. I work here because I believe in the mission of this organization. I believe that we, as a district, provide a great service to the community that I am also a part of. You see, I am not only an employee, but also a ratepayer. I am one of the very few lucky employees that can work and live here in Marin County. During my tenure at Marin Water, my workload and responsibilities have increased significantly. This is due to the decrease of personnel. However, my salary and my title have remained the same. Tonight, I'm respectfully asking you to negotiate fairly with our union. We are not asking for the moon. We are asking for what is fair. We are asking for fair wages and recognition of our workers' rights. Thank you for your time.
Aaron Burton, please, and Colin Leahy.
Hi, thank you. My name is Alan Budden. I'm the field representative and chief negotiator with SCIU Local 1021, representing your line staff, many who are in this room and in the hallway this evening. And I've been the representative here since 2017 and have seen your staff endure many difficult working conditions at various times to carry out their work for the district and to serve our community. This work is more than just a paycheck. It's the belief in the core mission of MMWD. All of us here tonight want the district to succeed. During the COVID pandemic, increasingly frequent wildfires, extreme heat, extreme cold, rain, floods, our members get the work done at all hours of the day and during holidays. Your staff have proven time and time again that they are partners. We have been at the bargaining table for 3 months, and while modest progress has been made on various components of our contract, several items we remain very distant, which are critical to our members. The overall message which has been sent to us is that of austerity. Our last wage proposal is only trying to keep up with the consumer price index, which differs from a pay raise. The district has not put a meaningful offer on the table in terms of recognizing our crews with hazard pay. And also pushed back from a district on recognizing Juneteenth and bilingual pay, adequate pay for bilingual speakers, undermines DEI efforts that this board and district claim to support. Lastly, the attack on retiree health harms recruitment and retention of the best possible staff. And it also allows, our retiree health allows workers to retire with respect and dignity. Let us make MMWD a competitive workplace. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Colin Leahy, Ian Thompson.
Hi, I'm Colin Leahy. I'll be talking about the retiree healthcare. Eliminating our retiree health will significantly reduce the incentive for employees to work for and stay at the district. MMWD will just become a training ground and platform for young professionals to move to other employers with better benefits. We will lose experience, knowledge, and site-specific skills, or never even acquire them due to the short term of a worker's tenure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
After Ian Thompson is Jake Elledge and then Mariette Shin.
Good evening. My name is Ian Thompson. I'm a utility crew leader for the operations and maintenance side. I just want to talk about the fact that I believe me and my peers, we do a lot to support the community. It's not just about a paycheck. We take a lot of pride in the work we do. We try to do it to the best of our abilities while also providing good customer service, leaving the public with a good feeling about the district. Holidays, weekends, nighttime, any of it, it doesn't matter. We're 24/7, 365 responders. I just believe that since we support the district, since we support the community, I would just like some of that to be returned back to us as a workforce. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jake Elledge, please, and Mariette Shin.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Never spoke on one of these. Jake Elledge, been at the district for 2.5 years. And I'll be speaking about wages that keep up with inflation. 80% of our workers live outside of the MMWD service area, and our salaries are now below average for our comparative universe and have fallen 8.3% behind the inflation index over the last 10 years. That's pretty big for me because I live outside the area, and I know, just like Ian Thompson said, I've sacrificed a lot for this place, and I'm glad to do it because all these people here, stand by my side and I stand by their side. And to see this and have your guys' support too, with how much we sacrifice and giving us a little bit, and show that you have our back, just like we have the district's back. Thank you.
And then Dan Nada.
Hi, thank you, board members, for letting us speak tonight. My name is Mariette Shin. I'm an information systems analyst in the GIS group of the Water District. The districts are home away from home, and we want to see it succeed just as much as the board members do, if not more. But it won't happen by racing our wages and benefits to the bottom of the curve. We're invested in the district, so please be invested in us. Like any investment, you get back what you put into it. When prioritizing projects and budgets and plans, the board should not just put the workers on the sidelines. We're at the heart and center of all the operations at the district. However, the workforce does not currently feel treated equally or valued, given the takeaways that the district is proposing at the negotiating table. What is the rationale for rewarding your workforce's dedication and hard work by taking away basic worker rights and retiree health benefits? Please ask yourselves that, because the frontline workers can't understand and don't agree with it. We hope that you truly listen to our valid concerns, tonight, and hope that you will make fair and equitable decisions for the health, well-being, and future success of the district, which we hope will be a place where the workforce will be supported to be their best. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariette.
And Native and Alexandra Hassler. Dan Maida.
All right. Good evening. My name is Dan Maida, Special Projects Crew Leader. At the heart of these negotiations, for me, lies the retiree health benefits for the new employees. If labor management fails to reach an agreement, these individuals will face a grim reality upon retirement. The proposed minimal benefits will leave them with scant coverage, while their spouses and children will be left without any health care or benefits whatsoever. So you'll be at the hands of watching the American dream explode. Significantly equal to that matter is the cost of living adjustment and the rising tide of inflation. We find ourselves unable to work here. Jake said it, 80% of us don't even live in the county or within an hour of it, which makes it sporty when you work a 16-hour shift at nighttime. And allow me to share a personal matter. Proud employee. I cherish the work I do. I really love my job. And as a parent of a 7-month-old daughter, she was there, she got hot. Oh, beautiful. There's baby Riley. But I dream of a bright future where she might be able to follow my footsteps one day, because this is a really good job and contribute to the success of this organization. However, with the current trajectory of these negotiations, it threatens to shatter that dream. If we fail to secure a contract that guarantees basic living standards, it will not only be a personal tragedy for me, but also a profound loss for the district as a whole. I implore you, board members, to recognize the gravity of these challenges and the potential consequences of inaction. We stand at a pivotal moment where the decisions made in these negotiations will shape the future of the workforce and the vitality of our organization. I have faith that you understand the importance of creating a workplace that attracts and retains talent, one that fosters growth and prosperity for all. Thank you very much.
Sandra Hassler, please. After Alexandra's Bill Sauter.
Hi there. I don't think I have anything as important to say as you guys do, but I left a bunch of work on my desk to get here, so I'm going to say it anyway. So I'm a customer and consumer of yours, and I just am hoping you'll consider changing your policy about only allowing one like bill reduction every 3 years for forces kind of out of our control when it comes to leaks. Particularly like in Madrone, where should we shut that?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Hold on. Yeah, I apologize. Sorry.
That's fine. It's probably better this way. All right.
Okay.
Should I shut the door?
Yeah. Sorry about that.
No problem. So I live in Madrone Canyon and there are all kinds of trees up there. And so I never had any kind of water leak until last summer when I got a $4,000 water bill, because that's how you notify, right? That's how I find out. And, I don't know if it happened a week before the bill came or 8 weeks before the bill came, because it's every 2 months. And so anyway.
I'm so
That's
sorry.
fine.
Go ahead,
This is-
ma'am. I
let's just be
apologize.
sure.
You're fine. You're fine.
Okay. So anyway, so I got the.
Okay.
Take a break and start over
What
again.
is happening?
Why don't we take a 5-minute recess?
Sure.
Sorry about that. If you can please stick around, we want to hear your comment.
I'm gonna stop the recording.
All right, so I'm here to just sort of request that, or just to explain kind of what it's like to be and work under the confines of the, I don't know what you call it, the reduction of a bill opportunity every 3 years. So last summer, I got this $4,000 water bill as a total shocker. And so just, had our contractor come out because we'd had some work done and there was some kind of a leak deep that we didn't identify despite kind of looking at irrigation and whatever the district answering service people suggested we do. And so that got fixed and you guys provided a deep discount, which was much appreciated. So then this year, for some reason, I get a $2,000 water bill for no good reason. And I look at my bills maybe twice a month or so. So I was probably 2 weeks late, right? So I'm assuming the water leaking is still happening the 2 weeks. The bill's already been here. It's probably like $3,000 by now. And so I call my gardener and he does a look and says he found a little leak and fixes it. So he says, but I just feel like I'm not quite sure that's a lot of money. So I'm about to go on vacation for 10 days. So I call my contractor to come back and have his plumber look, and they run the whole irrigation and check the valves and say everything's fine. So I think it's fine, but I followed the advice of the person I call, your helper here, who says, get the flume thing. So I get it because I thought that was a one-time thing with the construction. Now I have it again. So I order it, go on vacation, come back on the 4th of July, set it up on the 4th of July, because I'm trying to stay on top of this. And by the July 5th, we realized we're losing like 100 gallons an hour. So it wasn't fixed. And we had 2 efforts at, 2 professionals told us it was fine. So then I call your emergency helper named Annie, who was so helpful, helped me figure out how to turn off the water at this street, which made not at the street, but like probably the irrigation, which made the little spinning circle stop. But we still had water at the house. So we've kind of figured out there's two separate lines. We could have isolated where it's sort of, which zone of the yard or whatever it is. But then my contractor sends his plumber back over and it's like a week later and we still can't quite figure out where it's coming from. So, I mean, this is like 4 weeks into the post bill receipt phase and I still can't identify where it is. So anyway, I sent a letter again, hoping that you guys can take it on a case by case basis, but I'm doing everything I can to stay on top of it and still can't seem to stop the water. So it's not my personal fault, but I'm gonna have to pay this huge amount, I guess is my point. So anyway.
Thank you for
Those are my
letting
thoughts.
us know.
Those in the street.
I'm assuming we've got your name.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just a letter today.
Okay.
Yes. got it.
Thank you for letting us know.
Thank you. The next person I have is Mr. Phil Sauter. Go ahead, Mr. Sauter. I've unmuted your permissions.
All right, hard to follow some of those strong statements. Some of you may have seen this, but I wanted to call folks' attention to the USGS survey that was released on July 5th. They looked at tap water from over 700 locations throughout the US and found that PFAs, or what are known as forever chemicals, showed up in 45% of them. They looked at users supplied by wells as well as by water districts. Within California, the hotspots appear to be in Los Angeles, Salinas, Sacramento, and 2 locations north of Sacramento. It looked like there were several locations tested in San Francisco and Marin, and no PFAs showed up at any of those locations. The report stated that PFAs are most likely to show up in industrial areas and around landfills and wastewater treatment facilities. I recall hearing that Marin's water is free of PFAs, but I couldn't find a search button on the website to confirm that. I also read that the EPA is looking to regulate toxins, including PFAs, in drinking water. Further research showed that many of the top water filters for home use are not effective in filtering out PFAs. If all of this is true, it means that the district should not delay in testing any water sources being considered for mixing with Marin's own potable water from our watershed. A quick search showed that these tests are widely available at a cost in the $300 range. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Phil Sauter. I have no further speakers, sir.
Can we make a quick response to that last comment? Ben, do you want to say something?
Yeah, broadly, not specifically in terms of the request of how we consider that in terms of our broad water supply initiative, but it is a really nice example of how fortunate we are here to have such a pristine watershed. And over the years, we have looked for PFAs and we have not found them. And we recently did a suite of analysis and it was all non-detect. And that is what we expect. As Phil said in his note in the article, you really do see these where the water is groundwater supply and has historical industrial and municipal wastewater potential impact. So it does reinforce, what we do, which is cherish and appreciate the really high quality water we're so fortunate to have here.
I think the other thing, Ben, you need to mention is that we run it in-house in the GCMS, so don't need to go out, I don't believe.
Right.
Okay, with that, I think we can move on to directors and general managers announcements. I'll start with those that are remote. Larry, you're on the top of the screen.
Nothing I can recall at the moment.
Thanks, Larry. Monty?
No, nothing to report this time.
Jed? Matt?
Just one quick item. On Friday the 7th, I attended the Tomales Bay Foundation monthly meeting. And it was centered mostly around water quality testing in the Tomales Bay area and getting prepared for their State of the Tomales Bay talk, which will happen in the fall, which I'm looking forward to attending.
Great, thank you. Ben, general managers announcement?
Nothing this evening, Director Kush.
Thank you. So I believe we have the next item on our agenda is Oh, sorry, approval of the consent calendar first. We could have a motion to approve the consent.
So move.
Second.
Thank you. Terry, roll call, sorry, vote, please.
Yes. Director Russell,
Aye.
Director Sampson,
Aye.
Director Smith,
Aye.
President Schmidt,
Aye.
and Vice President Kush.
Aye.
Thank you. And there are no comments on the consent calendar.
Okay, thank you. So moving now to the regular calendar, I believe the first item up is the addendum to the BIFIP.
Yeah, good afternoon, directors. I'm Sean Horn, Watershed Resources Manager, and
Good evening, everyone. Carl Sanders, Natural Resources Program Manager.
the item before you is approval of the Biodiversity Fires and Fuels Integrated Plan and the BIFIP addendum. We've got a presentation that will walk you through on this item tonight. So this is a Biodiversity Fires and Fuels Integrated Plan is the district's vegetation management plan. And you'll recall that in 2019, the district adopted the CEQA document to allow for the district to scale up its vegetation work on the watershed. There was a number of goals to reduce fire risks on the watershed, protect and enhance our sensitive environment and ecological resources, and also provide a framework for adaptive management, which is what we're here tonight doing. This was adopted, as I mentioned, in October of 2019. We're going into year 5 of implementation of this document, and we've been able to achieve each of our annual goals for vegetation management through the implementation of the BIFIP. The structure of the BIFIP is designed around the goals that the district set out for its vegetation management plan. And then there's on-the-ground actions where we carry out various vegetation management strategies to address various issues that we see on the watershed. And we have a number of methods that we utilize. So in implementing this for 4 years, we've learned some things, and we've come here tonight to get approval to make some minor adjustments to the document and the CEQA analysis to allow us to continue to improve how we do this work on the watershed. So I'm going to highlight a couple of the adjustments that we're making and the revisions, and then Carl's going to go into detail in regards to how those will be kind of actualized. So in this BIFIP addendum, what we're doing to the plan is we're looking at our broom management approach, and we're rolling those up into one management action. Currently, it's broken out into about 3 for fuel breaks, for areas outside of fuel breaks, and for new broom. And so just kind of organizing it that way. Also, we're looking at increasing our forest health work and forest restoration work on the watershed. We've learned a lot from implementing it over the last 4 years, and we see a need to kind of scale that work up. Also, we're looking at how we can make adjustments to our kind of mitigation measures and best management practices based on lessons learned and kind of industry standards. And I'll let Carl speak more to that as we go through these.
Sean mentioned this is the addendum here is a result of 4+ years worth of on-the-ground implementation of the work and our lessons learned and how we want to adapt to improve performance out on grade. Currently we have multiple management actions related to broom. We want to aggregate those all into one. That'll give us flexibility, operational flexibility to make decisions on the ground for whether we're conducting new broom work or maintaining, importantly, existing work that we've done. For our forestry, we're asking and seeking to increase our initial forest fuel reduction work as well as our forest maintenance work. The initial work from 60 to 100 acres and the maintenance from 100 to 300. These again are thresholds under CEQA. These 2 increases are modest and align with both local and regional efforts, and especially on the maintenance of the forestry work, our ability to keep pace with maintaining the work that we've already conducted. The mitigation measures, all of these relate to our implementation of prescribed burning on the watershed. They're all operational and or planning in nature that have language that we've included new language in to allow us to clarify and make minor adjustments. This is not a change to the regulatory world where we're working within the smoke management plans or the burn plans or the IAPs, the incident action plans. Importantly, I can point out here is the BIFIP currently calls out for prescribed burning that we avoid rare plants, and in many cases rare plants are dependent on fire. So our introduction of fire, it will actually benefit these plants. Another kind of operational consideration is the the distance from which we're currently to avoid conducting burns. We're given a little language that allows again for flexibility in where we conduct those burns on the ground. Again, same thing, the current BIFIP calls out for avoiding broadcast burns or prescribed burns next to roads and trails. That's not necessary in all cases. So again, we have we've added some flexible language that allow us to burn next to public spaces.
And I'll just note that the map there that we included on this slide is just an example of a burn unit we've developed for off of Ridgecrest Boulevard. And it highlights kind of where we have trails going through, or we have roads, making that a kind of operationally accessible area for us to do that work in, but also kind of the nature of visitors on the watershed. It makes sense that we don't always close every area down during these operations. It's really thinking with the burn boss where it makes sense to, and getting people, our visitors, actually kind of experiencing fire on the landscape as well as part of the thought.
John, if you could hold that slide. So that just for everyone's reference, that's Rock Spring parking lot. That's near the top of Mount Tam at the intersection of Pantoll. That's likely where we'll be conducting our burn, hopefully this fall or maybe winter. Marin County Fire will conduct that burn. The site was chosen for a number of reasons. One was its accessibility, two, its need for this type of treatment. But the public outreach component of it, the fact that it's very visible, I think is a valuable component to this project. So if you've been up on Mount Tam, there's a large parking lot that you encounter as you come up on Pantoll, and this is right off of that parking lot. High profile. So for the ER addendum, I'll read through some of these things. We would need a supplemental EIR if and only if there were significant new environmental effects, or if there were substantial increases in the severity of previously identified significant effects, neither of which is the case with the changes that we're proposing. An addendum to the adopted ER shall be prepared for minor technical changes or additions when the above criteria that I just mentioned are met. Again, that's not the case. Panorama was the firm conducting this analysis. They were also the firm that wrote the BIFIP. They determined that all of these proposed changes fall within the existing analysis of the impacts and mitigation measures. The determination, again from Panorama, was that there are no new substantial or more severe significant impacts from these revisions or changes, and no new substantial changes will occur. The current mitigation measures and determinations of significance for impacts included in the certified BIFIP programmatic ER will continue to be valid. This addendum is an appropriate document for section 15164C, and no public review is necessary. So submit this for approval.
So with that, we'll take any questions that you might have regarding the BIFIP addendum.
Thank you, Sean and Carl. Board comments, please. Again, I'll start with our board members that are remote. Larry, again, you're on the top of the screen.
Just keep up the good work, guys.
Monty?
No, I have nothing to add. I mean, I really appreciate the fact that we're integrating lessons learned to improve the way we're going about doing things. So this sounds like a good update.
Yep, just a few comments and some recognition. I think Sean and Carl, thank you very much, especially with the implementation since 2019 to move this forward, but to highlight the adaptive portion of it, because it's so important as we sit here now, as vegetation prescriptions are changing rapidly in parallel with the climate that's changing. We have to be flexible and make changes with it. So it's important that we do that, and appreciate the efforts to stay on top of that. And also using science-based solutions is the responsible way to go. So thank you. I'm very excited to support this tonight. And it goes along with the additional funding from the current board adopted budget to accelerate the work that's being done in the BIFIP. But I get excited, but then also to maintain perspective. We've got 22,000 acres that have had the exclusion of fire for 75 years, or about 60 years too many. And so to keep everyone's, I guess, expectation, we're still 60 years at least behind where we need to be to catch up. So I look forward to taking our funds, using them strategically like you're doing now, and then really making sure we integrate with the rest of the region, hopefully with some guidance at some point from the Wildfire Prevention Authority. And I just want to make sure that our work's being done. I don't want everyone pointing the finger at us when the insurance company piece comes back and say, what are you doing about that? And staying ahead of it. So thank you very much for your work.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. And I'll just note, reiterating what Monty said, after 5 years now of implementation of the BIFIP, obviously learning from that and making adjustments is important. So thanks a lot for staying on top of it.
We have two speakers or public commenters. The first one is Roger Roberts and then Larry Minikis. So hold on, Mr. Rogers or Roberts, while I put on the speaker. And Mr. Roberts, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear
Okay.
me?
Yes. All right, let me go ahead. Go ahead, sir. Start.
Sean was good enough to take me on a tour of some of the watershed for the water district. And one of the things I came away with is that there's considerable amount of broom and other invasive species along trails and roadways. Not surprised about that. And I wonder how that aspect relates to the management with BIFIP and whether it can be included as part of a BIFIP program. It just raises some questions in my mind about how to deal with that. And one of the reasons, of course, why there is broom and other invasives along trails and roads is because it opens those areas up for sunlight and in some cases on a slope where there's actual extra water available for these plants to invade the area. So where does the routes and trails meet with BIFIP? That's really my question. And I don't know what you can do about that, but it is an area that is obvious to people who go on the district lands. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Larry Minikis, please.
Yes, I just would like to appreciate the work that Carl and Sean are doing here and appreciate the update to the BIFIP. And also Matt's comments were very good. And with that, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. I have no further speakers.
Okay, I think the next agenda item then is a water supply update.
Can I make a motion to approve it?
Oh, sorry, we didn't call a vote for that.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
It's been an interesting
Sorry.
day.
Yeah, sorry, Rajiv. I just want to be.
Thank you.
Second that.
Director Russell,
Aye.
Director Sampson,
Aye.
Director Smith.
Aye.
President Schmidt,
Aye.
and Vice President Kush.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, we can move on then to the next agenda item.
Is it on?
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, Board of Directors, Lucy Croy, Water Quality Manager. I have not done this yet hybrid, so give me a minute. Make sure.
Should be that one.
Yes, and then. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, looks good. We allowed Paul to take a vacation, so here I am. And tonight I wanted to do an update on water supply and first take a look back on the water year, kind of an exceptional water year that we had, and then also start to look forward and start the discussion on what we're projecting looking ahead into the next year. So tonight we'll talk about water supply, the conditions that we've seen over the last year, and then a projection going into the next water year. I'll give an update on the water supply roadmap, and then we'll close out at the end. Oops. So starting first with rainfall, it's very warm tonight, but this year was very wet, and it was exceptionally wet in the sense that we haven't finished the water year, but up to now we've had 75 inches of rain, which is about 150% of average. And what's different about this year is that we had if you can remember back in December, January, we had about 5 or 6 of those rolling atmospheric rivers that really built up our supply. And then through March, we had just very consistent rainfall that helped the watershed, kept rolling into our reservoirs. So ultimately, when I looked back, it was about 12 atmospheric rivers that we had this year. This isn't a totally exceptional year in the sense that in 2019, we also had 74 inches right before we went into the drought. So our system can be very flashy at times, right before we went into 2 years that was severely dry. From that rainfall, our storage has stayed exceedingly high. We spilled until May, and have just started to decrease from there. So right now we're at 76,000 acre feet, which is about 10,000 acre feet of water, more than average than we would usually be for this time of year. And for Sonoma Water, they're also doing very well. Both Lake Sonoma is over 250,000 acre feet, and Lake Mendocino is about 95,000 acre feet, which is above average for them. So then moving a little bit more into talking about demand, we've talked about having demand be about 20% reduced from 2020 or from that high peak year. But this is taking another look at it, thinking about kind of monthly changes. And so what I've got up here are 5 years, so 2019 through 2023. And this is a breakdown, seeing kind of a few of the different factors that may come into play, and why we're seeing the decrease that we've had. One thing that we think may be coming into play is just really the drought continuing, those habits that customers have built throughout the drought. Maybe they're continuing to not rebound. And then secondly, this year has been wet, so usually people don't irrigate quickly after. They don't need to irrigate their lawns. They don't need to go out and keep everything wet because we had so much rainfall. Where in 2020 and 2021, it was much more difficult to do that. And then another theory that we have is that 2020 is one of the highest years of demand that we've had in recent years, in the last 10 years or so. Which is likely due to so much residential use and so many people coming home for COVID-19. And so possibly we're seeing a little bit of decrease as people go back to the office. It's a factor that we're considering, but we really don't know yet. It's just kind of a factor that we're thinking about. And then another factor that kind of came up recently was thinking about this June gloom that we just had. And it just seemed like until maybe 4th of July or so, we really hadn't had any heat. And so I looked back, and for Corte Madera, we actually were 7 degrees cooler than the past years that I just showed. So it was significantly cooler in June. And then even actually for the whole year since January, it's that lower line. You can see that compared to 2019 through 2022, it's actually been a much cooler year. So not only more rainfall, but it's stayed cooler too. And so how that impacts customers and how much they irrigate or use water, it may be coming into play. So just something we're considering. And then, so talking about more long-term demands and how rebound may happen over time. This is a long-term chart that is about 35 years of looking at potable demand and kind of how rebounds have occurred in the past. So when droughts occur, typically we see demand drop very, very quickly. In 88, 89, it dropped, let's see if I can point right here, very quickly. In 2013, it also dropped very quickly. And then in 2020, it was very quickly. But what you see is that we're now basically at one of our lowest levels of demand that we've had in the last 35 years, with probably one of the highest populations we've had. So a very efficient use right now. And really, I think it'll take some time before we know what the factors are and really how much will come back up, because coming out of 2013, you can see that it took a few years to rebound. So there's really just, it's going to take time to see where we go from here.
Lucy, was 1989 a very dry year?
It was a long drought. So 87 to 92 was a kind of a long extended drought. It wasn't as severe as, say, the drought we just had, but there were a lot of restrictions at the same time. So yeah.
I moved to Tiburon in 92 and we didn't use any water at the house because of the drought. We actually had another house that we stayed in and then didn't come to Tiburon because it was so dry. So she's right. It was a pretty significant drought.
Okay, so then looking ahead from where we go, we pulled together a few projections thinking about where the next year and a half could go. There's a couple scenarios. At the bottom, we have a scenario where we have low runoff. So a year of maybe 50% runoff. And we return to high demand. So a demand like 2020. So you can see if that were to happen, where would we fall by March of or April of next year when it comes to our triggers? We would fall just below our voluntary, where we start thinking about doing restrictions. And then above that is still pretty restrictive, low runoff, but continuing our demand. So you can see that we're in a pretty good place, and then average runoff and continuing our low demand. So between this spread, you can see that we're in a relatively good place because of all the runoff we've had. And so what we're projecting is just that we continue to evaluate how the next year goes, but we've been very fortunate with the runoff that we've had and the late rain as well. So then moving into an update on the roadmap, a few updates. We're moving ahead with the implementation of the early action projects, including the electrification at Sewahuli and Phoenix Bontempi transfer. There will be an update at the operations committee July 21st. So there'll be a more in-depth update at that board committee meeting. We're also working on the stream release automation, working with USGS and all the agencies, and slowly working on that project. And then continuing to work with Sonoma Water and optimizing our water as well from there, our take from there. We're also developing our teams, getting proposals and RFPs out with the Marin Sonoma conveyance and the storage projects, and then beginning some investigative work on brackish desal in partnership with Petaluma. And then, of course, continuing to pursue the grant opportunities that we have out there. So there'll be more in-depth conversations coming up, looping the board in, as I mentioned, for the operations committee on July 21st, and then also the board meeting on August 15th. That'll be a more detailed update on the overall roadmap. So in summary, just the high level hits from this presentation is really that our storage is above average. We had great runoff, doing well. Conservation, our demand seems to be still relatively low, 20% below 2020 levels. And we continue to work on the roadmap. So
if I could just add a little bit, I just want to be clear, this was looking at the data in a pretty hard way, but generally we're ecstatic that the community is maintaining such a low demand and, taking such care of the limited resource. And Adrian and Carrie are actively promoting the messaging. So it seems like we're aligned and it's working, and it's really a good sign. That said, certainly a lot of uncertainty. I think over the next couple of weeks, we have a good hot spell. We'll be able to have a better feel for what it looks like the behavior pattern will be going forward. at least a better sense than today.
And with that, I'll take any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Lucy. Board comments, please. Again, Larry, starting with you.
Well, it's an interesting scenario. As my predecessor used to say, water companies are in the business of selling water. You know, if we can't sell our product, it gets more difficult and more expensive to run the fixed portions of our costs. So while I agree completely with Ben, it's a great achievement. It does create problems for Brett and that end of the business side. My predecessor was a guy named Dick Hill, who used to be the controller for the Claremont colleges. And he was a money guy that paid attention to the money side a lot. So, you know, it's interesting. I don't know if it's a new reality or it's just a pause in the system. So we'll have to kind of wait and see.
Yeah, if I could just briefly on that point, because I did leave the financial piece out of my comments, and certainly Brett is watching it closely. I'd say it's fortunate that the board working with Brett did take a relatively conservative look on the bounce back demand. I mean, we did expect some sustained kind of in a non-traditional way. So what we are, we were cautious, and I think so far the data supports that decision that we made.
Thanks, Larry.
Agree completely.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say what an interesting analysis that we have to look at in terms of the influence of the pandemic and ongoing changes in just the use patterns of our communities in terms of continued awareness of being careful with water and then a cool season. It's very complicated, but I think we are in great shape given the conservative approach that we took to the budget. And so frankly, if hopefully this reduction in our consumer use continues, and that it's not due to the cool weather, the June gloom that we've been experiencing, or that that people are back to work and hence they're not using as much water at home. So I think all in all, this is a really interesting update. And one that we'll be watching obviously carefully to see how things continue as the months go forward.
We're going to be looking at the data very carefully. Yeah, agreed, Monty. Thank you. Jed?
Thanks for the report, Lucy. Appreciate you stepping in. All of this leads to me that all the more it is important for us to just get on the water supply and storage roadmap implementation as soon as possible. That's why a lot of folks got elected here. That's what the community is asking for, and frankly, it's sure looking like that's what we need, right? We know drought's coming again. We can't bank on having full reservoirs always, and with demand being where it is, we need to get on it. So all in to get that plan moving as quickly as possible.
If I could, I think absolutely, and in reflecting on the chart that Lucy showed, even with an incredibly wet year in cool temperatures, the 1 year forecast is still potentially hitting triggers. So it does suggest we just don't have that resiliency that the change in climate is driving us the need for.
Matt?
Yeah, no, Jed, I agree, especially when the graph shows that we spilled through May this year. Imagine what additional storage would have gotten us this year alone to keep us out of it. So thank you for the report. Thank you for the detailed information to help us better understand the water usage or the production piece. And then again, I'm looking forward to the next updates on the water supply project, specifically the short-term ones that we get moving on. So thank you.
Don't forget the fish, Matt.
It would be interesting.
And the fish, Larry.
I don't know, Lucy, if we've calculated yet how much water we spilled just to understand, but that would be a good piece. If we don't have it, that's fine, to bring back at a later presentation.
But you also need to remember that it offsets from the release. So,
We do calculate it as part of our water rights. Typically, it's a rough estimate based on height above the spillway.
Right.
You know, but we can come back with it.
Right.
So.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I think as everyone has just noted, and just to emphasize, I believe everyone that's interested in Marin water should understand we have very small buckets at the end of the day. They fill up quickly and they empty fast. So working to increase that supply is critical. I have one request of staff and maybe my fellow board members, some consideration on the August 15th meeting. Like all of you, I'm super interested in that meeting, but I'll be traveling and not in a time zone where I can attend. If there's any possibility of shifting the August and September schedules, that would be great. If not, I also fully understand, you know, that
We could definitely have that discussion. There's a committee meeting where there's some conflict. It's not easy for Terry to find dates that work for all the board members, particularly in the summer. But we do have an outstanding request for one committee, and we could take that if and see if there's something that works relatively easy for all the board members.
yeah, or if it would be possible to switch agendas so that the September agenda is covered in August.
yeah, that's what he's talking about, Ben. He's not talking about moving the meeting. He's talking about moving the agenda.
Oh,
And I don't need the FAC meeting if it's a pain in the butt, I don't need to. So that's not a big deal. I'm not.
okay. Thank you for that. Yeah, so what we plan to do on water supply updates going forward is the first board meeting of the month, August, we have it on the 2nd because Paul's on vacation, but every month, the first board meeting to give a robust update, and in the ops committee, bring more granular project specific updates on the water supply. So we'll be doing that at this coming up. So it's more of an ongoing update, and we could brief you separately if that would work for you, Director Kush.
I just don't get to argue with my fellow board members. No, that's fine. That's fine.
You can argue with the video, Ranjiv.
That sounds very good. Thank you.
Thanks to both of you for that.
We do have a public comment. Mr. Phil Sauter, please.
Am I unmuted? Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Loud and
Okay.
clear.
Thanks. I think it makes sense to test all potential sources of water for PFAS and other contaminants before more time and money is spent studying them. That would definitely include brackish desalination. As Ben said, Marin has a priceless supply of high-quality potable water from our watershed, and the risk of contaminating that water with inferior quality water from other sources is just too high. That doesn't mean that substandard or hard to treat water couldn't be used for outdoor irrigation. Based on the signals we're getting on indoor conservation, including from the Flume study that was presented last month, it seems that Marin water customers are doing a good job conserving water indoors, perhaps as much as 20%. If we could find a way to conserve half of our outdoor water usage, either through high impact programs like turf replacement or through a separate distribution system of non-potable water to heavy outdoor water users, we could eliminate the need to contaminate our potable water source with substandard or hard to treat water. Some say that a separate purple pipe system concentrated in small geographic areas with heavy outdoor water use is just too expensive. But I think all of our 200,000 customers should be included in that discussion. It may be that folks would rather keep our potable water supply pristine and pay a little extra to bring in non-potable water for heavy irrigation in the relatively few areas where it's needed. That would be especially true if the cost of supplying large amounts of non-potable outdoor water could be matched to the heavy usage. Either conservation of potable water and/or substitution of non-potable water for heavy outdoor use would work, and I think we should study both. in my last 10 seconds, I'm going to send up a hosanna to hear Ben getting a little bit more optimistic on the ability of our customers to conserve water. Thank you.
If I could, just a brief clarification to add, the recent sampling that we did for PFAS includes the Ignacio pump station, which is the Russian River water, and that was also non-detect, just for your information.
What about North Marin, Ben, from Stafford?
I don't have that offhand, but it's.
Yeah, I think we should look at that, because if we start integrating them into our system via Sulahuli, it's an interesting question that Phil brings.
That's a good point.
We have one more speaker, Miss Marilyn Price. Go ahead, Miss Price.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, sorry if I sound like a broken record, but I keep coming back in my mind to this topic of conservation. We're doing 20% is good. I just know we could do better. I'm not sure how to reach people. I was kind of brought up, saving for a rainy day. Now it would be like saving for a non-rainy day, better safe than sorry, that we keep our reservoirs as full as possible all times, not just because we have water. Now we can use it like it's free. It doesn't matter if we use it or not. I think the mentality of our residents, of the people in the world, have got to change, and change sooner rather than later. So I wish I had the magic wand or the wonderful solutions to give you. I'm kind of hoping you will come up with them, but that we really work in that direction of education for our residents, and including the PFAS, that you all should tout that in your newsletters, that people aren't worried about it, and what a good job you're doing, because you are doing a good job, and thank you for that.
Thank you, Ms. Price. There are no further speakers.
Okay, then I think the last item is our future meeting schedule. We did touch on that already.
It's just briefly that there's an operations meeting next Friday, and the following week is the regular board meeting, and then after that's another board meeting. And that's it.
I have some input on that. On the 25th, the first item on the agenda is going to be a tribute to Annie Laser. I realize I'm apparently the only person who knows who Annie Laser is. We got to fix that. But Annie is leaving the Bay Area to go back to Boston. And so we're going to have a tribute to her, which these are pretty routine things that we haven't done much of recently. And I've just cranked out a list here. I think we should think seriously about having a monthly honoring event similar to the one for Annie. We have Nancy Praetzel, Roger Roberts, Larry Minikes, Ann Thomas, Priscilla Bowles, Nona Dennis, Phil Sauter, Barbara Salzman, Linda Novi. These are all people who have done outstanding efforts to support the water district, and I think we should have some thought to how to recognize them. Let's see how Annie's goes, and I think we should make a real effort to notify the water community that Annie is going to be honored on the 25th, because she's a critical person. She was on 3 of the citizens rate committees, and she's a fascinating person. Her father was a doctor, and she's quite an interesting individual. I always loved her last name because she's just like a laser, and honed right in on pure light. So anyway, let's all try to make it on the 25th. Annie doesn't want a cake, but I've asked to have a cake and these were, like I say, pretty common things we did. A little break at the beginning of the meeting, 5 minutes of honoring the person, and then having a little treat. So we make it a social event too. Anyway, that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Larry. Super thoughtful. Appreciated. And with that, I think,
Vice President Kush, I'm sorry, my apologies. I believe we want to reconvene the closed session. We did not announce that, but we can do so now. If we're going to reconvene the closed session, we will adjourn the open session on Zoom and here in the boardroom at the end of our closed session discussions. This is the same item that's listed at the beginning of the agenda. We're just resuming our discussions on that item. So just wanted to state that for the record.
thank you, Molly. Okay, so we will reconvene to closed session and then adjourn at the end of the closed session. Thank you.
Thank you. Resume. Oh, wait, hold on. Sorry. Let me stop share there. There you go.
Okay, so our closed session was convened at 8:05 PM with no actionable items to report. And with that, we will adjourn our board meeting of July 11th, 2023.
Thank you.